What's up, party people? This is Tarkus Jude Mossberg here from Facebook, Jude's Junk Facebook comic book shop and YouTube channel. And people will often offer me trades. They'll often offer me partial trade cash plus this, or we'll talk about financing, or we'll talk about buying the book with PayPal goods and services or cash. And there's different fees involved. And some people will look at past sales data and then look at my price and say, how did you come up with your price? So I do something different in the way I price books. It is impossible for a single dealer like me to keep up with prices, especially if I have 3,009.8 books up for sale. It's just impossible. If I had priced them all 2 years ago, then they'd all be sold because they'd be undervalued now because a lot of things have gone up, although some things have still gone down. So I don't try to play that market, especially in a volatile market. If you were doing a 90-day average when things were going straight up, you were losing money. If you do a 90-day average when things are going straight down, you weren't selling anything because things are going straight down. So um, trying to price, and we all get mad when we go to the comic book store and they're like, um, doing the prices at the counter, right? No, none of us like doing that. So there's different ways that a dealer might try to price his comic books fairly to attract a buyer. Let's not use that word fairly to get confused with fair market value. Okay, that's not what the fair market value means. The fair market value is based on past sales data, and if there was a willing seller and a willing buyer, that's considered fair. They both agreed on it. And we all know the outliers when something's really low and when something's really high. That's why a lot of people resort to the 90-day average. Or in the old days, we would resort to the 12-month average or the previous 12-month average when Overstreet was out, because if the previous 12-month average was what was inside Overstreet, you wouldn't know what the book was worth until the next Overstreet came out. But now, day and age, with information flow, with a lot of auction houses, a lot of reporting, there's quick data. And I did a whole video on how prices went up quickly in 21, they crashed quickly, and even now, whether you believe it or not, there are some books that are going up quickly. We just saw Hulk number 340 go from 900 to average 1300 in the last 6 months. That was the average. So there are books going back up quickly. A lot of books overcorrected. There's a lot of buyers that were just scared. They were buying on auctions and they just didn't want to put their money in. So the books dropped to a really low value and they overcorrected. They went too low. And a lot of people saw that and they're like, I'm getting back in now, especially, the market might have changed and things looked more positive in the economy. So prices and for some keys are going back up quickly. I've seen some of my books literally double from the last sale. And that's kind of crazy. So every dealer has to determine what they're going to try to sell it at. And it's really hard to chase a fast moving average. I was just on, what is that, Automatic Comics. And he's like, I like it when it's flat. It's easy to do business. When you have these huge volatiles, it's very hard. And I tell people, with the flow of information as fast as it is these days, and with a lot of people's reliance on last sales data, not 90-day average or anything, if the last sale was really low, they just assume it's going down. If the last sale is really high, they'll just assume that was an outlier. So, and until they see a trend going up, they're not going to believe it. Obviously, there's collectors that have been around before 2021 and saw a stable market for years. And we are in that unstable market phase, the 20s. All of 2020s is an unstable market phase. It doesn't matter whether it's Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze, Copper, Moderns. There's big jumps. Um, you can see the more unique books, the Mark Jewelers, the newsstands, um, the one of ones. The last sale was probably in 2022, and everyone thinks, oh, everything was high then. And then the sale comes out today, and it's doubled that in 2022 because it's a one of one or a one of two. A 9.9 Spider-Man 1 signed by Todd, or a 9.9 Spawn 1 signed by Todd, or stuff like that. Those are hard to get, those 9.9s, 10.0s, the signed ones especially, because you have to have someone touch it. And I just think a 9.9 signed is harder to get than a 9.9. So people will often ask me, where do you come up with your prices? And I've sent a video in the before when I got angry and defensive at somebody, trying to attack me online, and I realized that's fruitless. But an objective comment on how I get my prices, it's very much like businesses have done for 48, 50 years. Mine are going to be my comic books are going to be the cheapest in the world. Bottom line. If you can find it for less, we'll try and beat it. That's the simple price. You go do the work. I'm not going to go do the work to get on fair market value, to look up all the prices. I do when I price it, but I'm not going to do it every 5 minutes that someone asks about it. And some clients may not like that, and I get it. But I am not taking on that additional work of re-looking up the price every time. So I set the price, and I say, if you can find it for less, we'll try and beat it. Typically, some clients that know me and their regular clients might see a book that's been sitting out there for 3 years. Hey, what are you selling this book for? What will you give it to me for? And ideal clients and regular clients and people pay cash, I always give them, 10% off the normal price. And that normal price might need to come down. And then there's 10% off of that as well. So I look at eBay, I look at my comic book shop, I look at the books out there, and in my ads, you'll see that, when I posted the book, the lowest price was $684 shipped. Now, if you see it on eBay and they bought it for $650, and that's what's reported in GPA, the minimum tax they paid was 6%. We pay 6% in our state. Other states is 8, 9, 10%. But I add on 6% for tax, so that 60-foot book, they added on 6% tax. And a lot of these auctions houses do not include shipping in the reported price. They just include the price that the book sold for. I bought a $4,300 book that's still listed on GPA for $4,300, but after taxes and shipping, it was over $5,000. That was $700 in taxes and shipping. So GPA gives, it's not completely clear on what people are buying and selling. You got to remember, the people that post the information on GPA Go Collect, GPA is better at cleaning the data. I just had this conversation with someone. GPA is better than cleaning the data than Go Collect and Cover Price, because there's bad data with bad sales, and there's ways to manipulate GPA, Go Collect, and Cover Price, and a lot of sellers have figured that out. Everybody that reports sales data to GPA, Go Collect, or Cover Price, it's not a sophisticated system. You got one person saying this book sold for $700. And you hit a button and it gets transmitted off to GPA. So what if I want to blast up the value of that book and I say it actually sold for $1,000? Is it wrong, unethical? Sure. But all you need to do to report your data is pay for marketing with GPA, and then they want you to report their sales data. And if they audit you and caught you lying, you could get in trouble. But there's things going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of auction houses that don't report their past sales data. They don't report any data to GPA. But then there's the houses that do report. I got to tell you this, there's a lot of auction houses that will do whatever the buyer wants. They'll either report it to GPA or not. I can tell you 10 auction houses that won't report my purchases on auctions to GPA because I've asked them not to, because I do brokerage for clients, and clients don't want to everybody know what they paid for a book. So if they get it at a cheap price, it's not going to be reported. So there's a lot of subjective feelings on the part of a dealer on whether or not he wants to report that sale, what he actually reports, how he calculates that. So as much as we rely on GPA Go Collect, there's some subjective, there's errors, you fat finger it and you say it sold for $35 instead of $350. That's a manual input, whether it's on a computer screen or something. All these comic book dealers are not hooked up to some, maybe they input their data on the internet, sure, but that doesn't mean it's all linked to their internal computer systems. So it's not like whatever you see on your screen is automatically going through the internet and popping into GPA. There's some manual person writing it down somewhere along the line, whether it's a spreadsheet or whatnot. So the data is very, very helpful. GPA, they clean it up more than Go Collect and Cover Price. I've already said this in the past. Cover Price mixes CBCS and CGC sales data, and probably now they're mixing in PSA sales data, which in some cases gives you false numbers, and that's why people are like, this isn't accurate at all. GPA cleans it up. They only report CGC sales data. In the beginning, I didn't like that. If you want CGC sales data, you can go to Go Collect. I don't know if anybody's reporting PSA sales data now, but there's more and more PSA books coming out on eBay and the auction houses. And so hopefully someone's tracking it to report those sales data. But so all I do is go out and say, okay, I write down in my little notes, okay, the 90-day average in this book was 1,000. The last sale was $950. But then I go to eBay, and the cheapest available on eBay is $1,300. My goal is to beat $1,300. $1,300 fully shipped. So that reported sale, that item on eBay, that is going to charge you tax. Heritage, they're going to charge you tax. It doesn't matter. So you add in the 6%, you add in the shipping, that's the full shipped amount, and then I got to beat that price with my main full price. And that is PayPal goods and services, and that is financing. Now, if you want to pay cash, then I take 10% off. 10% off for cash. With my regular clients, I can give better deals, and I do. And that becomes a whole nother thing, especially if I like dealing with clients that I'm used to. They trust me, I trust them, and it's just an easy transaction. Brand new clients, we're probably not doing this. But my regular ideal clients, they might buy a lot from me. They might use my brokerage services, or I go off and source a book for them. They say, hey, I want to pay X amount for this, X-Men 133, and I only want to pay $1,000 max, and I'll go out and try to find it for them. That's my brokerage clients. So that's a totally different beast than the books I have in-house for sale. So I try to make it the cheapest available. If nobody in the world is selling a 2008 Toyota Highlander, which is what I own, 2008 Toyota Highlander, 300,000 miles. No one in the country is selling that for, let's say, under 10 grand. Then I'm going to price it at 10 grand. That's what it's going to go up on Marketplace. But I knew a buddy that bought it from this dealership for 8. Doesn't matter. This is the cheapest in the country. Now, granted, if it's the cheapest in the country and nobody is buying it, a year goes by, 2 years go by, that's a different story if you're marketing it accurately. I got a truck for sale right now. It's lower than Blue Book. It's not getting a lot of bites. Not really sure why. Don't know if I'm using the right marketing tools. Don't sell a lot of cars very often, so I don't know I'm getting in front of the right eyes. There could be a lot of different ways that I might be using the tools wrong, and maybe it's not even showing up publicly. There's millions of things that can go wrong. But with the comic books, I got 3,000 9.8 books. Forget about the 6,000 raws I have. I don't have any time to post those for sale. I am building a shop. I am building a website that nobody can mess with. Like Facebook's messed with me a few times over the last 2 years and made me restart everything, all my marketplace ads all over again. So I'm doing my website on and getting all my books in there, and it's just taking time. It's all manual data entry. So that'll have a complete inventory of all my books eventually, and it's ported over into my shop. So by the time the books get input into spreadsheet, put into my website, ported over into the shop, a few months might go by, prices have already changed. It's like, so I just try to be the cheapest, and then I take 10% off. Now, could books go up in value in that time? Sure. Could they go down in value? Sure. If someone's interested, they might say, hey, the last sale on this was 100. Would you sell it for, you're asking 125. Would you do it for $110 shipped? Just to add in shipping. I might totally do that. That's not unrealistic at all. But I might be selling a book for 125. I might just looked it up yesterday, and the cheapest anywhere in the country is 140. So I got it for 125 shipped, 10% off for cash is $12.50. So you got $112.50 is what I would do it for cash. If a guy's saying I saw it sell on an auction for 43, there is time and effort for anybody. I shop auctions daily. I spend hours daily, 4 to 5 hours minimum daily, looking at auctions, preparing for auctions, get my clients to set up to buy off these books that I sell for on my brokerage service. Buying on auctions takes a lot of time. And if you have the time, you get those great deals. Most people don't have that time. That's why I have a brokerage service. Most people don't have the time. And you'll say, well, it's easy. Well, yeah, I have 30 auction houses I watch. I know the websites to go to. I know the websites not to go to. I know the websites that have buyer premiums that are crazy. I know the websites that always sell way overpriced. I know the websites that have problems with reporting and problems with maybe false bids. And then there's minimums, and then there's rules for auctions, and then there's the auctions that always sell high because they have a lot more visibility. So, if you want to do all that work to figure that out, then great. But, you don't buy off of Heritage. A lot of these YouTube videos are saying Heritage. Never buy off of Heritage. Very rarely. It's not worth my time anymore. They get the most eyes. They always charge tax. The buyer's premium is confusing. And I got 29 other auction houses I can watch. Now, if there's one specific book someone's looking for and it's the only place to find it, and you can set up an alert and you're told that's there and you're just looking for that one book, great. But for the most part, a normal book, it's not going to be a great deal in Heritage. My comic book shop, I don't really go to them anymore, except for cheap books, under $100. I might pick up a book for, $50 that it's $100 average. And maybe they're just small books I like, Todd McFarlane books, and they're 9/8 and it's less than case cost. But, they didn't used to charge me tax in my state. Now they do. So that's a difference. And, their shipping has doubled. So it keeps going up in terms of overall cost. So try to avoid my comic book shop, although their packaging is great. Their shipping prices are great. I just don't like the added fees, and the deals aren't that great, except for the cheaper books. I find, you can get a lot of books under case costs that are 9/8. All the Todd McFarlane Spider-Mans, all the Infinity Inks, all the Spawns, whatever, a bunch of the non-keys, but they're Todd books, so I can, usually get them relatively cheaply there. What was the other one? eBay and Heritage. Those are the two that usually are not going to get me great deals, although some people do. I'm just not going to waste my time with them because it's very rarely a good price. So how do I price my books? I'm going to be the cheapest in the world, and I'm going to make the client see if they can find it for cheaper somewhere else, because I just don't have the bandwidth to search 3,000 comic books every day to reprice them. And you can't really expect a dealer to do that. And you can't expect a dealer to put a price in an uprising market and then not reprice it. And if it's going up fast, that dealer has to reprice everything. So you either want the dealer to be taken advantage of, which a lot of people do. They want the dealer to set the prices 3 months ago, have the prices go up, and then never reprice. Or you want the dealer to spend the money to hire a full-time employee to go through and reprice them every month or 2 months or 3 months. And a lot of that is just not realistic. And you don't want the dealer to reprice it at the counter because he's trying to do what he thinks is, quote, fair. Again, the fair and fair market value is not what the fair price is today. And a lot of people confuse that. So, I also don't specialize in common books. A lot of dealers specialize in common books because they're quick and easy to sell. I specialize in unique books. They're not quick and easy to sell. They might be one of 1, 1 of 10, 1 of 20. And those are the books I like. So those are the books I buy. So if it doesn't sell, I'm happy that it's on my shelf. There's a lot of people that are like, if it doesn't sell, they're just going to give it away or whatnot. And I don't keep those books around because I don't want to deal with books that I don't like. So I only buy books that I like. That's why when people ask me for trades, I'll say maybe. If I don't like it, I'm not going to go for it. A lot of people will just give you what every book is worth, no matter what. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with, selling 50 random slabs that are not even 9/8. So the time I'll price it. It's the cheapest in the world. Now, if you can find it for less, you want to come back and say, hey, Tarkus, I just talked to this guy on eBay. He's willing to give it to me for $1,500. And then I do the math. Okay, $1,500 plus 6% tax plus the 20% shipping. You're looking at, $90 tax. So $1,500. So you're looking at about $1,640, $1,610 fully shipped. And you want me to beat that. Sure, I can beat that. I'll do it for $1,500 cash. That'll beat it. It'll save you $110. And so, but someone might say, well, I don't trust you enough. Well, then I give you my referrals. And if I say, I still don't trust you enough, I only want to do PayPal goods and services, then I would say, okay, he's going to do $1,610. I'll do $1,600 PayPal goods and services. So I weed out the people that don't want to develop a trusting relationship. So almost all my clients are trusting relationships. Do I give up more sales? Yes, but it doesn't matter. This is how I've ran my business for 25 years. You find a way to weed out the bad clients. You're only left with the good clients, and then that only attracts more good clients. And then you enjoy working with those clients. If you just sell whatever you can to get the sales and you attract a lot of bad clients that are just looking for the cheapest price in the world, then you're going to attract more bad clients. That's what Walmart is not known for the best clients. They attract the worst clients. And then it goes up to Target, and then it goes up to Costco. Costco's average clients make over 100,000 a year. Target make about 73,000, and Walmart's average clients make about 30,000. So it's the poorer people. And oftentimes, just look at the people of Walmart, websites. The chicken bone that's on the counter when I walk in, right next to the box of Nabiscos. If you attract a different type of clientele, that maybe you don't want to deal with them every day. So I digress a little bit, but that's the best I can do, is price to be cheapest in the world. And if people want to calmly and rationally come to me and say, hey man, I can get over at my comic shop for blah, 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 then I'm like, okay, let me look at it, and I'll get online. Wow, this book is tanked. Yep, you're right. Absolutely right. You know what? I'll be happy to give it to you and I'll save you some money. And, but when people come at you angry, like you owe them something, you owe them the book, you shouldn't be asking this much. That's not the guy I want to work with. I don't want to finance with him. I don't want to trade with him. I don't want to have a long-term relationship with him. And he doesn't maybe understand business. That's just not the kind of people I want to invite into my world. And so that conversation is going to go a lot different. And I'm assuming a lot of you guys can understand that, especially as you get older. Your willingness to tolerate stuff, that bandwidth is smaller and smaller in terms of when you're going to snap. So anyways, that is my pricing philosophy. The best I can come up with at this point. Unless we have a stable economy, stable environment where prices aren't jumping all around every single day, and I don't think they're going to change. I think we're going to have a lot more volatility. We have double the auction houses today that we did 6 years ago, if not more. Every estate house in the country is doing auction houses, and people are selling their comic books on auction houses. So add up every estate sale auction house. Then you got comic book auction houses. Then you have auction houses that sell other things besides comic books. And then you have people that just do comic books. You got the small mom and pop auction house. You got the that don't do a lot of marketing, so they don't get a lot of eyes, and they don't charge a lot to sell on there. That's why they're lower prices. This people will tolerate lower sales prices because the fee is smaller. You might only pay a maximum of $500 versus another place you're going to pay 20%. 20% of a $10,000 book is $2,000. So, anyways, hopefully that helps explain my pricing strategy. If you've listened this far, you must be really interested in what I have to say, or you forgot about me, I'm on in the background, and you wish I'd shut up. Happy hunting, guys. Take care.